Welcome. I'll make this intro short. The internet is full of creepy stories wherever you go, and Reddit is no exception. Our first story comes to us from the subreddit r/paranormal, titled, I Got a Paranormal Experience for My Birthday. Hi r/paranormal. Longtime sub and commenter. I was remembering this experience with one of the girls who lived it alongside me last night, and realized I never shared it here. This happened back in 2015, on the night of my 19th birthday. I was briefly affiliated with a sorority in college, ended up dropping out in my senior year, and originally only joined to hang out with one group of guys in this frat that I really liked. During my birthday weekend of my sophomore year, the frat threw their annual time machine party at this mountain resort in West Virginia. I'm not going to disclose the name of the resort, but it's located about an hour outside of Charleston. We had all driven down to West Virginia from our university in another state. Because it was mid-November, the leaves were changing all sorts of beautiful reds and browns and golds. Also, because it was mid-November, the only people staying at the resort were our party, and one family of 8 who were staying right by the river and entrance to the resort. Down at the base of the mountain, our party had all the cabins closest to the top of the mountain, a 30 to 40 minute hike from where the other group was staying. Our cabin setup went kind of like this. The biggest cabin was at the top of the mountain. This was where all the frat seniors and council members slept. The cabin was used as the main party house for the weekend. To get to the main cabin, there was one narrow pathway. It curved down along the side of the mountain, kind of encircling the peak so as to make the walk less steep. The main cabin was the only one at the peak. The next nearest set of cabins was 2 full revolutions around the mountain away. Then another set 2 more loops down, and so on. So all this to say, there were groups of lit cabins separated from one another by several minutes of pure West Virginian darkness. 3 of the girls in my sorority and I had attended the trip and were bunking together in a cabin about 8 revolutions down from the main cabin. It was a 20-minute or so walk up the mountain's path to reach it. On the second night of the trip, my birthday, we set out around 10 p.m. to rejoin the group at the main cabin. It's worth noting that none of us had been drinking at this point. EMY and myself are walking up the mountain. We've just passed a group of cabins 2 turns above our own, so we're almost halfway to the main house. We're all just laughing and talking about the boys in the frat. Normal girl things. You know. We're in one of those gaps where there are several minutes of walking in almost total darkness. We have 3 flashlights between the 4 of us, which we're using to watch for divots in the road. We turn to the side of the cliff, and the tree line above us opens up such that a little moonlight illuminates our path. And that's when we see it. Walking at a remarkably slow pace, about 20 to 25 feet ahead of us, we can see the outline of a very tall person. Specifically, we can see what appears to be a white t-shirt. The white fabric of the shirt is vividly reflecting, almost glowing, in the moonlight. We all see it at the exact same time, and have identical trains of thought. It's someone from our group of 90 people who decided to walk to the main party house alone. Never mind that we'd been walking up the same narrow path as they had for almost 10 minutes and hadn't noticed them ahead of us. E yells out, "Hey, do you want to walk with us?" Y says, "It's so dark, do you have a flashlight with you?" The tall figure stops in the road, still probably 20 feet ahead of us. They all kind of stopped too. Everything in the forests around us seemed to go silent. Extremely slowly, the figure turns to look back at us. This is kind of hard to describe, but all we could see was their white t-shirt. Everything else was so dark. We couldn't make out their limbs or features or pants or anything at all besides this glowing white shirt. But we could tell when this figure stopped walking because we could see the absence of motion. When they'd been walking, we could just barely see the dark being manipulated by the presence as it moved through it. And now, standing still in the road, we could see the motion where, if we had been able to see the being's face, it would have turned and looked at us. It looked at us for a moment, and everything was still. I kinda got this nervous pit in my stomach, like something was warning me to proceed with caution. Then, the figure took off racing, far faster than we'd seen it move this far. For whatever reason, all four of us took off running after it. We were yelling things like, "Hey, stop! Wait!" while we followed the glowing white figure around the next turn of the mountain, gaining on it. About halfway up the next turn, the figure suddenly veered sharply to the right and disappeared. We reached the place where the figure had disappeared about 10 seconds after it did and shone our flashlights around, looking for them. To the left side of the pathway, there was a drop about 40 feet. There was no way a person could have made it down there in the darkness without climbing gear or a flashlight. And we'd seen the figure veer right, so... To the right side of the pathway, a wall of jagged rock rising completely vertically. No cave entrances, no path that a person could access. We all kind of looked at each other and then took off again, sprinting the rest of the way to the main cabin. When we arrived, we were all gasping for air from running up a mountain. Some of the frat guys met us at the door and were laughing at how disheveled we looked. We were all speaking over each other, clamoring to share what we'd just seen. One of the frat guys turns over his shoulder and yells, "Hey Claire!" A girl who I've seen around campus and recognize as a senior from a different sorority comes over to us. "Tell these girls what you guys were accusing us of." Claire looks at him for a second, then turns to us. "Last night, around 3 a.m., somebody was tapping on our windows. At first we thought it was an animal, but it kept tapping in patterns, so we thought it was some of the boys fucking with us." She went on, "We filled up some water balloons in the sink and snuck out the back window to go surprise them. But when we got outside, the guys weren't there. There was this, I don't know, it looked like a person, but I couldn't see the person. I could just see their glowing white shirt," we all said in unison. She looked surprised. "Yeah, we still thought it was someone from our camp, but when we tried to follow it, it just, I don't know. It seemed to disappear into solid rock." No one else saw the being for the rest of the trip, but it's something we all vividly remember and swear happened. I've heard that West Virginia is haunted by spirits from the Civil War, but I'm not sure that what we observed was a ghost. The LP adds in a comment stating, "The reason I bring it up being my birthday is because my family is Slavic, and in a lot of Slavic cultures, there is this idea that the other realm draws closer to you during the month of your birth. Paranormal occurrences, unlucky or unlikely events, sudden revelations, they come closer to you leading to your birthday and further away from it, but are most intense in the month of." My friend has mentioned this concept also exists in Japanese culture. So that was a dive into my first story read. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. If you have any critiques or suggestions about my videos, I'd be more than glad to hear them because I would love to improve and grow. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember to stay fresh.